Two sisters, one mind, a chilling pact, a death no one can explain. This is the story of June and Jennifer Gibbons, the silent twins, and the terrifying secret they carried until the very end. June and Jennifer Gibbons were born in 1963 in Wales. From the very beginning, something was different about them. They refused to speak to anyone, teachers, classmates, even their own parents. Instead, they spoke in a secret language, one only they could understand. Was it twin telepathy or something much darker? Even as children, they moved in complete sync, walking in the same rhythm, mirroring each other's actions, as if they were trapped in the same body. As they grew older, their behavior became even more disturbing. They isolated themselves in their room for days, only coming out when no one was around. Their diaries revealed dark fantasies. They wrote about controlling each other's minds, and a chilling realization: yes, they had made a pact, a deadly one. In their teenage years, their darkness spilled into the real world. They set fire to buildings, vandalized property, and terrorized their community. When they were finally caught, the authorities didn't know what to do with them. They weren't violent, but they weren't normal either. Instead of prison, they were sent to Broadmoor, a high-security psychiatric hospital. But what happened inside was far worse. Locked away for years, their obsession with death only grew stronger. They became convinced that one of them had to die for the other to live a normal life. Then something terrifying happened. In 1993, after nearly 12 years in Broadmoor, the twins were finally being transferred to another facility. As they sat on the bus, Jennifer turned to her sister and whispered, and just hours later, she did. Jennifer was found unresponsive. No injuries, no poison, no illness. Her heart simply stopped. The autopsy found no cause of death. What's even stranger, after Jennifer's death, June began speaking normally. It was as if the curse had lifted. She later said, "We decided. One of us had to go. It was her." Did Jennifer die by choice? Was their connection something supernatural? Or did she simply will herself to death? The silent twins remain one of the most chilling mysteries of all time. Imagine living your life completely unaware that someone is watching you, not from outside your window, but from inside your own home. This is the terrifying true story of Tracy and the man who lived above her without her knowing. Tracy was a hardworking single mother living a quiet life in her South Carolina home. She had no idea she wasn't alone, but someone was watching her. Every move she made, every night she slept, he was there. Then, strange things started happening. Soft noises from above, small objects going missing, a faint smell of sweat lingering in the air. She brushed it off. Maybe the house was settling, maybe it was nothing, but she was wrong. One night, she noticed something horrifying, nails falling from the ceiling. Someone was up there. When her nephew checked the attic, what he found was the stuff of nightmares. Someone had been living there, not for days, not for weeks, but for months. And then she saw it, a collection of her own belongings, old photos, her clothes, even notes about her daily routine. And that's when they realized he was still there. Tracy's ex-boyfriend from over a decade ago had been hiding in her attic, watching her, living above her without her knowing. She ran, grabbed her phone, and called 911. But before the police could arrive, he vanished into the night. They searched the entire neighborhood, but he was gone. And the question remained: how long had he been there before she noticed? Tracy never slept in that house again. She moved immediately, but the trauma never left. And as for the man in the attic, he was never caught. So ask yourself, are you really alone in your own home? A phone call is a connection, a voice, a message, a lifeline to someone you love. But what if that call came from beyond the grave? This is the true and chilling story of Charles Peck, a man who perished in a catastrophic train crash, but somehow his phone kept calling his loved ones hours after his death. It was September 12, 2008. Charles Peck, a 49-year-old businessman, was on his way to Los Angeles to see his fiancée, Andrea, but he would never make it. At 4:22 p.m., the Metrolink commuter train collided head-on with a freight train in Chatsworth, California. The impact was devastating, killing 25 people instantly. One of those passengers was Charles Peck. But then, something unbelievable happened. It was Charles's phone calling from the wreckage. Over the next 12 hours, Charles's phone called his family 35 times. But every time they answered, there was only silence, no voice, just static. Was he trapped? Was he trying to reach them? Or was it something else? His family held on to hope. Maybe Charles was alive. Maybe he needed help. Rescuers used his phone signal to pinpoint his location and dug through the wreckage, searching for him. And then, they found him. The horrifying truth? Charles had died on impact. He had been gone since the moment of the crash. The moment they found his body, the calls stopped. To this day, no one can explain how Charles Peck's phone made those calls. Was it a technical glitch, a bizarre malfunction, or was it something beyond our understanding? Maybe. Charles was trying to say goodbye. Would you answer? Some hauntings leave behind cold spots, flickering lights, and eerie whispers. But in 1974, one woman claimed she was physically attacked by an unseen force, something far more sinister than a mere ghost. This is the terrifying true story of Doris Bither, the woman haunted by an unrelenting, violent entity. In 1974, Doris Bither, a single mother of 4, moved into a small house on Braddock Drive in Culver City, California. But something was already there, waiting for her. Strange things started happening almost immediately. Whispers in the night, objects moving on their own, and an overwhelming sense of dread that filled the house. But soon, it got much worse. Doris claimed that not one, but 3 entities tormented her. They weren't just shadows in the night, they were aggressive. She spoke of 3 malevolent spirits, one large, overpowering entity, and 2 smaller ones who held her down. She described being thrown, beaten, and even assaulted by something she couldn't see, but could definitely feel. Her children, too, witnessed the horror. They saw their mother thrown across the room by an unseen force, and yet, when they reached out to grab her, they felt nothing. Terrified and desperate, Doris reached out to Dr. Barry Taff and Carrie Gaynor, 2 paranormal researchers at UCLA. At first, they were skeptical, until they entered the house. They expected creaks and flickering lights. What they captured instead shocked them to their core. The researchers photographed strange balls of light floating around Doris, pulsing as if they were alive. The room's temperature dropped drastically, and some claimed they could feel the presence watching them. One of the photos appeared to show a partially formed figure standing above Doris. Could this be the entity that had tormented her? Not everyone believed Doris's story. Some skeptics argued that she was suffering from extreme psychological trauma, perhaps hallucinations brought on by a troubled past. Could her mind have been creating the hauntings as a way to cope with past trauma? Or had something truly latched onto her? The debate raged on, but nothing could explain what happened next. On one terrifying night, Doris claimed she saw a full apparition, a dark, humanoid figure looming over her. It had no face, but it radiated pure malice. After that night, the attacks became unbearable. Doris left the house, but the spirits, they followed her. Even after moving multiple times, Doris claimed the entities never truly left. Her life remained plagued by unseen horrors until the day she died. To this day, no one can fully explain what happened to Doris Bither. Was it a poltergeist, a product of trauma, or something far worse? Maybe some doors should never be opened. Would you dare step inside? A dream home turned into a nightmare, a quiet neighborhood hiding a dark secret, and a mysterious figure lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting, sending chilling letters that would drive an entire family into fear and paranoia. This is the true story of the Watcher House. In 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus thought they had found their forever home, a stunning 6-bedroom house in the quiet town of Westfield, New Jersey. It was everything they had ever wanted. They were excited to move in, to start a new life, but someone else had been waiting for them, watching. Just days after closing on the house, the Broadduses received the first letter. It looked like an innocent welcome, but inside was something far more disturbing. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood, 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. The writer called themselves the Watcher, and they claimed that their family had been watching the house for generations. My grandfather watched this house in the 1920s, my father watched in the 1960s, and now it is my time. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. The letter mentioned personal details about their family, things no stranger should have known. It asked about their children, about their plans for the house, and it ended with a chilling warning. Welcome home, I will be watching. At first, they tried to dismiss it, a prank, a joke, nothing more. But then, the second letter arrived. Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time, they will. The Watcher seemed to know their every move. Someone, somewhere, was watching. Desperate for answers, the Broaddeuces went to the police. But despite an investigation, there was no clear suspect. Could it have been a jealous neighbor? A previous owner with an unhealthy attachment? Or was it something even darker? The Broaddeuces never moved in. The fear was too great. They abandoned their dream home and put it back on the market, but who would dare live there? Years passed, but the Watcher was never caught. The house remained infamous, haunted by the letters, the mystery, and the unanswered question, who was watching? Maybe they're still watching. Would you live in the Watcher house?